high school, college, and working. Alright guys, what's up? Upshift here. We got our first night video that I've ever done. Little fun fact. I love night riding. It's actually my favorite time to ride, probably. It's a lot more peaceful and calm. You don't have to deal with, a bunch of the drivers. And around where I live, there are a bunch of wildlife, deer and raccoons and stuff like that I gotta worry about. But I've never really run into a problem with that on the bike. But anyways, the topic for today is, or tonight I should say, is high school, college, and work. I graduated high school. Technically my graduation year was 15. However, my high school had, and I know many other high schools also, they have a program where you can accelerate that and graduate a semester early. And I went that route. Basically, all that involved was I never got a study hall. I never got a study hall or free hour. Some schools have. I always had a credit class, and pretty much that's all it was really required at my high school to get that early. My senior year, however, I did have to do 2 English classes at a time, because to graduate where I live, you needed 4 full credits of English, and a semester is a half a credit. So I had to do 2 different English classes to get that full credit in time to graduate. But other than that, my high school experience, I don't know, I didn't have a terrible high school experience. I know a lot of people, either they loved it or they hated it. I was pretty neutral about it. I went to a private school for 6 or 7 years, and then I switched to public school, and my private school had like 20 people in a class, and by class I mean like 1st and 2nd grade were together, 3rd and 4th grade were together, 5th and 6th grade were all like in the same room. So I went from roughly 10 people a grade to hundreds of people in a grade. So that was a big jump for me, but luckily I had a few people that were transferring from my school to go to private, or to go to public. So I knew some people along that lines, and then I had friends outside of my school that, through basketball that I met them, through sports, and then some childhood friends that like lived in the town. So it wasn't a huge transition, but it was rough transferring to public school. But by the time I reached high school, I was used to, moving around through classes and whatnot, and I already met, my friends and stuff like that. So high school wasn't too terrible. My freshman year was a little rough. I was and I still am a huge nerd. And I got out of sports when I went to high school, so I didn't really get to hang out with I still hung out with the guys that I knew from sports, but I didn't continuously hang out with them in high school. But I was able to meet some seniors and stuff like that in my freshman year. So I had really good, upperclassmen as friends. But however, when I went on to sophomore year, they graduated, and I kind of fell back into the, I know the cool kids, I know the popular kids, but I'm still a huge nerd. So I was a conflict of interest when it came to hanging out with me. That's how I say it was, anyways. I almost hit the kill switch to turn my brights off. However, junior year, I don't know, I stopped being such a nerd, and I kind of attribute that to having a motorcycle. Over my sophomore and junior, the summer in between those years, I got a motorcycle and I started, you know, having a social life and hanging out with people and being out on the town. And that really broadened my social network and my friends to people I'd never talked before. And that helped a lot. And then my senior year, you know, you see it a lot, especially if you guys have lived through high school already. You guys know by the time you're a senior, you really don't give a crap. And you do you, and you don't worry about anybody else. And that's exactly how it was for me. But I went through my high school career without having any drive to do something after it. I jumped around between, you know, being a motorcycle mechanic, because motorcycles are my life in a sense of, I get off work, I go ride. It's 9:30 and I'm riding, you know? And so I kicked around doing something like that, but I worked at a motorcycle shop here in the town where I live, and I realized how shitty a mechanic job really is. At least around here it is. So I kind of abandoned that thought, and I kicked around a few things. I thought about I got a job at the hospital that, if you guys have been watching my vlogs, or at least paying attention to the vlogs, you would know that I worked at the hospital for about 8 months. I thought about continuing, you know, working in that field, even though I wasn't doing any medical. The benefits of working at a hospital are just off the charts. You know, you get health insurance, you know, you get all the insurance, 401, stuff like that. So it makes sense to stay in such a good industry. And the healthcare industry is always hiring. That's like the biggest pro to working in healthcare. But I went out to a few colleges, checked out their programs, checked out, you know, I went out to Florida and checked out a few places, and there was nothing that really said, you know, upshift, go work this. This is amazing. This is exactly what you want to do with your life. So I put it off and I put it off, and eventually it got around. I graduated in December of 14. So I kept working at the hospital. I switched to full-time. I'm living at home. I made good money there, and by good money I mean like I made like $1,000 a month. But at 18, $1,000 a month is fairly good money when you have no other bills except for a bike payment. So I did that, and so this kind of moves on into the college thing, or we were kind of talking about the college thing, where I just never found anything I really wanted to do. So I never committed to myself to dropping $20K, you know, a year on my education that wasn't guaranteed for me to like. And the way the job market is, it was just hard for me to commit to something. I wouldn't say that I have commitment issues. I got another gear. Okay, so I kicked around with my parents, you know, like, what do I want to do? What's my next step, you know? And I branched off into my photography thing around the time where I graduated. And that's where I kind of started this whole YouTube thing. I had a few dealerships. The dealerships that I do photo shoots for, they were offering me jobs, or leads on jobs at least, to go out and, like, keep their websites up to date, do, you know, continually doing videos for the website, and basically being their marketer, you know, having a social page, having a Facebook, having an Instagram, you know, having their own YouTube channel, stuff like that. We kind of worked on that, but where I live is about an hour away from all of my dealerships where I was getting these leads. And price-wise, you know, money-wise, it never made sense for me to move out from my parents. I'm not the person to where, like, I hit 18 and I want it out. You know, I absolutely love my parents, and to be honest, I got it cushy there, you know. I don't have to pay for internet. I pay for my phone bill because of where I work now. I get it for insanely cheap. There's some deer. if I can find gear. I get it for pretty cheap, so, you know, I pay bills, but I don't pay anything close to where if I were to live on my own. But that's kind of skipping ahead with this new job. With the money that I've been made at a dealership, even though I'd have been loving what I'm doing, it didn't make sense for me to, A, commute an hour one way every single day, you know, 2 hours round trip. It didn't make sense for me to do that. And it didn't make sense for me to find an apartment somewhere. And the apartments there where I wanted to find, you know, where my job would be, the apartments that an 18-year-old could rent weren't very great because they had limitations, you know, like they wanted 21 and up at certain places and whatnot like that. Like the apartments that I could pick from, they were pretty rough. So, never ended up committing to one of those. So I did that on free time, you know, part-time. I kind of went over when I had the time like I do now. And I continued working at the hospital for another 2-3 months. But it got to the point where I really loved what I was doing when it came to the cinematics that I'm doing, you know, that I occasionally upload to YouTube and whatnot. I really loved what I was doing there, and I loved the work, and I loved the editing and whatnot. So I kind of... You know, I wanted to keep doing that, but it wasn't a viable option for, you know, a steady income. And that's something, you know, like I said, I have it good at the house, so there's no point for me to want to move out and have to crunch numbers every month to make sure I hit rent and any other payments, you know, utilities and whatnot. So I wasn't going to college. I didn't have a steady job. I mean, I had a steady job, but I wasn't making livable money on my own livable money. But as many of you guys know, the amount of job opportunities that open up when you're 18 are absolutely immense between what you can get at 16 and 17. So when I turned 18, about 2 months in actually, I applied for my job out at AT&T, and I don't know, the job process for AT&T was very long. The hiring process was very long. It kept going on, and I never got messages, and then out of the blue, like a month later, I'd have like, oh, hey, yeah, you're on the next round, but luckily, thankfully enough, I was able to get that job, and I mean, that job so far has been an absolute godsend to me. The amount of people that, you know, amount of 18-year-olds that get an opportunity to work at a we're Fortune 14 right now, I want to say. The amount of people that get to work at a Fortune 14 company, and even though I'm in a low position, I make on my own livable wage where if they were to say, hey, we need you, you know, somewhere else, we want to transfer you, I can move somewhere and live on my own without having to crunch numbers every week, you know, making sure I made this bill and that bill. And that really made a difference to me when it came to, you know, what's my next step in life. Now, I'm not saying I won't go to college. I'm not saying I'll never go to college, because it's still an absolutely obtainable goal of mine. And I think everyone should go to college, but you shouldn't go unless you know exactly what you want to do. Now, I don't know what I want to do, but I know for a fact, unless something absolutely insane happens where I find something that I just fall in love with, I'll do something that benefits AT&T, and I'll work my way up in AT&T. The big thing I told my hiring manager, or my recruiter, I don't know what you want to call him, was I wasn't looking for a job, I was looking for a career. And that's exactly what that job out there at AT&T is. It's a career. At the age of 18, to make so much money and see the world, and AT&T is a global company, so they have spots in Australia, they have spots in the UK. There's just so many things I can do now that my managers, you know, there's a bunch of people that went into the hiring process of hiring me, but I want to deeply thank every single person that was involved, because this opportunity, even though I'm only 2 months in, I know is the best opportunity I've ever received in my life so far. Just because the potential for me at my age with, you know, I'm not tied down to anything. I can move. I can, you know, I can still go to college. My possibilities and where I can end up are just limitless. AT&T, if you guys can get a job at AT&T, now I'm not saying this for everybody. I'm a seller. I have to sell. I'm that guy where, you know, I'm that guy that no one likes. They come into a store. I'm not necessarily on you like a car dealership is in the sense of like that selling. But I'm still, you know, I'm still there to sell you items. I make commission. You know, I'm still a seller in the sense of, even though when people come to a phone store, they're like, oh yeah, I want the new iPhone. I still have to sell you on, you know, getting a case. You know, I gotta find you the right case that works for you, whether it be a LifeProof or something like that. There's more that goes into my job than me just saying, oh yeah, you want the gold iPhone with 64 gigs? All right, I'll be right back. There's more that goes into it than that. This area is really creepy because they're all blind corners. At night, it's a little bit better because most people have their lights on, or at least you would hope, so you can kind of guess, you know, you can see if someone's actually coming or not. But during the day, it's a little rough. But the thing I really want to touch today on was the work, and I want to share a work story with you guys. So, at my store, and at most stores, there's a manager and there's 2 assistant managers. And like I said, my managers really went out on a limb because you don't hire 18-year-olds at that job. You don't see many of them. I'm kind of a rarity. They went out on a limb and they hired me and they took a chance on me, and I want to thank them so immensely for it. But the 2 managers, they're moving. They've been promoted. They're going to another store. They're going about 4 hours away. And even though I've only worked with them for about a month, I'm going to miss the immense knowledge that they have and just the teaching that they've done in this short amount of time. It's just, it sounds sappy, but I can't thank them enough because they really have given me so much opportunity that I don't think I'll ever be able to thank them enough. So to wrap things up, why I'm not going to college is not because I didn't get good grades or I didn't get accepted anywhere. I never even really applied. I'm not going to college because I never found something that I wanted to invest money in. And I was lucky enough to get a good job out the gate, you know, making livable wage wherever I go. You know, granted I'm not going to be living a lavish life, you know, at the position I'm in now. It's definitely a viable, foreseeable, you know, future that, you know, I'll get promotions and I'll be able to work up and I'll have a career there instead of a job. But through this job opportunity, through everything that I've done that's up to this point, I now have the opportunity to get out and, you know, see the world, see other things. And I just want to touch back because I can never thank my managers enough for giving me the shot. And I know this video kind of sounded sappy, and it's kind of going to, you know, almost a tribute video to my managers. But this is Upshift Productions. This is my life. I'm vlogging. This is, you know, I'm not a specific, like, I only talk about bikes. I talk about my life. And you guys are going to get more stories of this, talking about my life and, you know, what I experienced. And you're following through my adult life journey. I mean, if you guys are here now and years later, if I'm still doing this, you'll see me progress as much as I am. And this is kind of my way of being able to look back on my life. I'd like to think 2-3 years from now, I can go back on this YouTube account, take a look, see where I am right now, you know, this video and me talking about my managers. Thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to think that I can be a manager and I can be giving kids this opportunity because I know how much it means. I know how much, you know, someone would appreciate what I've got. So that's all I really got for you guys. This is a little heart-touchy, you know, video. And we had a party for my managers last night. It was a growing away party, and because I only worked with them for so little, I didn't have any heartfelt stories to share with them. You know, what shenanigans that went on in the store and whatnot. But I was able to thank them immensely from the bottom of my heart. You know, what a great opportunity this was. And I don't know if they'll ever watch this, but Brandon and Armin, if you're watching this, thank you so much. I love you guys for this opportunity, and I'll never be able to thank you enough for giving me what you guys have given me. This is Upshift signing out. I'll see you guys on the next one.